Hello friends, and today we are going to learn about the directive principles of the state policy. This is for grades 7, 8 and 9. This is the second part of the series of Constitution. Let's recall what we studied in our first video. We studied about the Constitution. The Constitution of India is a body of rules and regulations that defines the functioning of the government. And what is a preamble? Preamble is an introduction to the Constitution. It tells us in short what the Constitution is all about. The source of the Constitution, the people of India. We also studied about the nature of the state. Our country, India, is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. We have understood the meaning of each of these words in our previous video. Let's today understand the meaning of the directive principles of the state policy, also known as the DPSP of the Indian Constitution. So what are the DPSPs? These are the directive principles, which means these are the guidelines which are mentioned in the constitution of our country, which guide the state government and the central government. They help the state government and the central government and all the governments of our country to frame policies for the betterment of the society. So when the framers of our constitution made the constitution, they wrote the constitution, they wanted to give guidelines to the governments to follow, so that we all together, all of us in unison, achieve the objective of our constitution, which is a socialist egalitarian order. They highlight the constitutional objectives. So all the objectives which are mentioned in the preamble of our constitution, all of these objectives can be achieved by following the DPSP, by framing policies based on the DPSP. The DPSPs are highly inspired by the Constitution of Ireland and the Gandhian philosophy. There are the three types of DPSPs that our constitution has mentioned, which are the socialist, the Gandhian philosophy based DPSPs, and the liberal intellectual DPSPs. So basically, talking a little more about the Gandhian philosophy, it is based on the promotion and protection of economic well-being of the SC and STs. The DPSPs are basically guidelines which are used by the central and the state government to frame policies, to make laws, so that an egalitarian social order is achieved. Since they are only guidelines, they are not enforceable by any court of law. So if, let's say for example, the government of Maharashtra is not following the DPSP, it cannot be held responsible for that in any court of law. They reflect the philosophy of the Constitution and they help in the fulfillment of the ideals mentioned in the preamble. We studied the ideals that are mentioned in the preamble, the socialist, democratic, secular, republic, etc. All of these ideals that are mentioned in the preamble, the nature of the state that is mentioned in the preamble of our Constitution can be fulfilled, can be achieved by framing policies based on the DPSP. Governments follow these principles while framing laws and policies. So they are like a handbook, like guidelines to help governments to achieve these objectives. Let's study now the fundamental rights of the citizens of our country. The first one being the right to equality, which means that any person, irrespective of the person's, regardless or irrespective of the person's status, social status, the financial status, the gender of the person, each person is equal in the eyes of the law. There is absolutely no discrimination as to anyone. You could be Mukesh Ambani or you could be a person working in your house. Both of them are equal in the eyes of the law. There is right to freedom. So under the right to freedom, there are 6 types of freedom that have been mentioned in our constitution. That is the freedom of speech and expression, the freedom of assembly, the freedom of association, freedom of movement, freedom of residence, and freedom of profession. So all of these freedoms, we have a right to all of these freedoms as a citizen of the country, as a citizen of India. And then you have right against exploitation. Now this particular right is related more to child labor. So any child, any person below the age of 14 years cannot be given any hazardous or life threatening kind of a profession. Anyways, in any case, any child below the age of 14 years is not supposed to be in gainful employment, gainful economic employment as well. So that is the right against exploitation. Then there is right to freedom of religion. We all know that India being a country where you can choose your own religion, you can change your religion, your belief system, if it's so. You can change your fundamental religion if you want to. So that is a right to right. That is a freedom of religion. Then there are cultural and educational rights. Now, this particular rights that have been given are more specifically for the minority language people, or the people who speak a particular language, and these people are in minority, or certain cultural minorities we have in our country. So, to protect their culture, to protect their language, the cultural and educational rights have been conferred or given. Then you have a right to education. This is the latest one to the fundamental rights. This was not originally given or framed by the constitution for the framers of our constitution. It was added later on. The right to education tells us that any child from the age of 6 years up to 14 years has free and compulsory education. So education is free, education is compulsory. In education is free in the sense it is free, absolutely free, no fees to be paid in any government school. Thank you so much for watching. This was presented by Pandit's Academy.